Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Savannah Storm. Today's topic is how I came out. When I came out as trans female, I actually came out in a determined sequence of people. Uh, and some of you may not agree with the way I did it, but okay. If you see my other videos on my channel, you know, of course, I have a spouse of 16 years. After watching a couple thousand YouTube videos, I determined after almost 35 years that yes, I am trans. And one day I went fishing to the coast with my dad, and I was in a really bad place mentally. I wasn't happy with how I looked, how I felt, the way I dressed. And finally, it just up in me, and I said, okay, I've got to let this out. I had actually already been diagnosed with gender dysphoria twice from say the age of 18 up. I was actually diagnosed with dysphoria twice. Before this last diagnosis, I just got to get approved for my blockers. Uh, but okay, my dad and I were both veterans of the military. He's an Air Force vet. I'm an Army vet. Um, we're both, you know, he's from the older generation. I'm like borderline, like I guess millennial generation X. I believe in some of the old traditional ways, but I also embrace some of the newer ways like technology. I get into where I love technology. He doesn't really like technology because he hasn't really taken the time to understand it. Um, and having young children, I'm going to have to deal with technology. But with the power of YouTube, I'm here to tell you because mine and my father's relationship has always been close. We fish together, we work together, we do carpentry work together. We both worked on each other's houses. My dad and I actually built a house, an actual house together for my grandmother. You know, it took us 6 months and a lot of hard work, but we did it. Um, you know, we don't always see eye to eye. You know, parents and their children always won't, but you can find common ground. Okay. And what I'm leading up to is the reason I came out to him first is because we hung out so much. Yes, my spouse is important to me as well. They're both my main supports, and you know I balance it out between the two of them. Um, you know, but I came out to him first because I wasn't sure where to start. I didn't want to immediately come out to my spouse because I was scared what the impact of coming out to her first would be. And of course, I knew coming out to him, he would have some advice for me of where to go after that. You know, and just getting his general feelings on it helped me determine who was next in line to be told. And we went saltwater fishing, and we're sitting there catching a couple fish, and you know, I was nervous as heck, and I could feel the nervousness building up and the anxiety and the stress, and finally, it came out, and I told him, you know, I told him why, how long I felt the way I did. I stood there holding my fishing rod and waited for the worst. You know, I waited for him basically to tell me when we get home, you know, don't ever come see me again. And you know, in my mind, I always prepare for the worst case scenario and hope for the best. Um, he's never been one of these parents that, well, actually, he said it once. He said, um, after a couple, you know, after a while, I asked him, well, what do you think of this? He said, well, I'm going to kind of feel like I'm losing my son. And I said, no, I said, not really. You know, physically on the outside, I'm going to look different. Inside, just being on the blockers for 2 years, do I spiritually and mentally feel any different? Yeah, I do. But here's what I was determined to do with that. Instead of being mad about him saying, well, I feel like I'm losing my son, I feel like I'm going to lose my child, here's what I did. I started dressing as the real me, as you see now, and I still did carpentry, and I still went fishing, and I still went to the coast with him, and I'll always be there for my father, and our relationship will probably always be close because even though it was awkward after that, I made him realize that I could physically change on the outside to become a happier person, but he wasn't going to lose who I was before that did the same things I did before with him. That whether I was a guy or a girl, we could still do those same things that we enjoyed together. And we're very family oriented. We can always lean on each other, and I think that's why I came out to him first. Um, I was worried the impacts on my marriage might be a little bit worse, so came out to him, and then that night when we got home from the coast, I came out to my wife that night. Um, I showed her a couple YouTube videos, and I'm not going to say the names of who they were because, as far as I know, you're not actually allowed to do that on YouTube. I've been reading through some of the policies; they're pretty strict. But I actually watched quite a few videos, and and we watched probably 50, 60 together, the wife and I, and she was upset, and again, the best thing you can do is brace for the worst, hope for the best, and then whatever the end result is, take it, and be glad if it turns out okay. But here's what I caution against: even if everything turns out okay, and you're able to come out, and there's no anger, there's no well, pack your crap and go, or even if there's none of that, and it turns out to be a pretty good experience, even though your anxiety built you up to it. Um, don't become overzealous. Don't become in a hurry, and that's what that advice actually came from my older sister. She's also a veteran. To me, then my kids, then my mom, and then my sister, and then after my sister, I came out to all my veteran friends here in town, and that's exactly the order I did it in. I've always believed in doing if you know something or someone is going to be the hardest situation that you have to deal with, it's better to deal with the anxiety, the stress, the not sleeping the night before, and get whatever the hard mission, I'll say mission is, out of the way first. And then you go from the hardest person and come out to them, and then you go down the chain to maybe I'm going to say the bottom chain will probably be one of your friends that you see every now and then, and you just know you can go tell them anything, and they're probably not going to care because it's not going to impact them. So I came out to my mom, and it was so funny to I I came out to her separate from my father because I didn't want my dad to try to present my situation to my mom. I wanted to present my situation to my mother in person. That way, immediately, if she had a question, I could answer it. That way, if she had an emotional reaction, I could be there in front of her to either comfort her, de-escalate her, whatever was needed at the moment. And I could read her body language immediately, and she was like, okay. She said, it sounds like it's going to be something hard. Why couldn't you just be gay? And I got a good chuckle out of that for a while. She's like, why couldn't you just be gay? I'm like, me, I got to do things spectacular. I got to make everything big, make a big presentation. But, and actually, it's funny. The wife came around first, and then my mom's actually became a pretty good ally with my transition because she's on YouTube and she's on Facebook a lot. So she's actually followed transition as like some of the mega stars that have transitioned from male to female and vice versa. So she kind of knew a little bit about it, which helped out quite a bit. And and then once I came out to my mother, I came out to my sister. Now my sister, she's a lot like my dad. Uh, Again, we're all veterans, but the only difference about my sister is she lives in a bigger city. She sees more. She's a school teacher, so she's had contact with a lot of the LGBT community that are younger in high school type level age. So she's had a little more like actual one-on-one exposure, and she had a lot of questions, but she's very intelligent. So I kind of expected that, and I was kind of ready for the I was kind of ready in my head to fire off what I needed to when she asked. Because I know she's the type of person, if I talk to her, she's going to have questions. So I was ready for the question and answer. And her advice, her best advice, and I did it over the phone with her because she's 6 hours away. Um, Her best advice to me was go slow. And that's what I meant earlier by don't be overzealous. Be happy that they accepted what you've had to say, but don't be overzealous. Take your time. Um, I have a friend, and again, for their protection, I'm not going to say who they are, but they did it to me in the worst way possible. They came out to their parents, and they're a little bit younger than me. They're in their mid 20s. They came out to their parents over a text message, and to me, I could never, I couldn't do that. I love technology and everything, but I just, even if I lived, say I was still stationed somewhere far away from here, I would wait till I was in person, or at least over the phone, where you can actually interact with somebody. Because a text message, at the moment, even if they're mad behind the phone or computer, they they could say anything they want to you to get you out of their hair, and then behind the scenes just be extremely hurt, crying, angry. You never know. So anyway, and they had actually came to me and asked me how would you go come out, and I'm like, I would go personally see them. I would actually get in the car, drive. If you got to take off from work, go. Consider if you really want to transition, you really want to come out, you really want to be you, then you do what you got to do. It, they should have taken like half a day off of work and drove, uh, and actually went and saw them in person, not on a text message. I've seen a couple of YouTube videos that have done that, and those worked out okay. But not everybody has that that fairy tale Disney happy ending. Uh, so it turned out very bad for them, and honestly, their parents were not upset at them wanting to transition. They were not upset that they were a trans female. They were not upset about that. You know what they were upset about? They were upset because they did not have the respect to come tell them in person. And they're still mad at them right now. They're still mad at them. And it's not because they were trans. It's because of how they came out. They said, we thought you could come to us for anything. We've always been there for you. And I know his parents very well. I've known them over 15 years. And, that's why they're mad. Because it was done over a text message. And they just totally took that as disrespect. So I guess the whole point of this video is I did it in a sequence of people. Not a sequence of events, but um, so I did it in a sequence of people, and it turned out good that way. All my veteran friends here in town, instead of texting them or calling them, I invited them over to the house, and I told them in person. I wasn't gonna contact a bunch of my vet buddies over the phone or over a text message and say, look, this is what I'm going to do, because you never know what their beliefs may be. So I guess my message to the people that are watching is um, there's a right way to come out. There's a wrong way to come out. I don't have many friends, so So coming out to family was definitely the hardest part. Waiting for the reactions once I told them was the second hardest part. And then the awkwardness, afterwards, I came out to everybody, my mom and dad. I didn't go see my mom and dad for 3 or 4 days. I let them have their space and let them adjust to what I had just told them. I gave them time to think, and that is usually the best policy. Don't come out and push. I've seen these talk shows where people come out and they just show up at their mom and dad's house dressed as a female with the wigs to dress as, and I like, no, don't do that. Just if anything, do it with integrity, do it with responsibility. I know you're eager. When you finally make that decision, don't let anything stop you from coming out, but just sit down. If you got to, write it down and put it in a sequenced order of how you need to do it. There's a lot of people on my mom's side of the family that don't know I'm trans, unless they come across my videos. They do now. Hi guys, I'm trans. I see them enough. They don't ever call. Don't ever get Christmas cards from half the family. So I attempted for a couple of years, and I was like, they don't ever call me. They don't ever text me. Why should I bother? So I was more worried about my immediate in-person association. And no, the wife understood why I came out to my dad first. She wasn't mad about that. So there's not really much more I can say about this. Just don't let anything deter you from coming out, but just be responsible with it. Expect reactions either direction, and just be smart about it. People tend to hate surprises, and that's where the anger can get triggered very quick, is surprises. Myself, I hate surprises. Okay, I've said all I wanted to say. I've noticed my channels are my videos are getting a few more hits on them. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I've got a couple of new subscribers. To my new subscribers, hello, thank you. I'm glad to have you. To anybody that might see this video, I'm working on my content. I'm trying to kind of zero in better on my presentations, and I'm still working in the background on how to use the editors and how to put the little still pics and everything up there. My male to female transition video is doing very well. Thank you. It's cool to see so many people have seen it. I don't have many pictures of when I was a couple of years ago, when I was still 225, 240. I had a bunch, and the phone that I had been backed up on got busted, and I threw it out. So I lost tons of pictures. There was a picture at one point. I was 255 pounds and I had over 24-inch arms. You see me now, I'm not that big anymore. But my next video, I'm going to talk about blockers. I'm actually only on blockers right now. So I'm going to talk about blockers, a couple of the physical changes I have noticed just being on the blockers. Okay. That's going to be it from me. I'm Savannah Storm. I love you guys, and I hope you have a good weekend. Bye.